Hi, this is Mark Meyer from Martech Hero. In this video, I'm going to look at a couple of email verification tools and why you may want to use one. I will show you how to enter one-off emails to check, upload a list of emails to check, and also I'm going to show you how to use their API to automatically check new emails that you capture on forms, for example. For this comparison, I'm going to be looking at the solution called Reoon, which is, you can see at the top of the screen here. And I'm going to be comparing that to a service that's been around for a while called Neverbounce. And we're going to see how they each work and maybe which one's better. So what is an email verifier? An email verifier tool is a powerful tool that helps to ensure that an email address is valid and can receive messages. So it performs several checks to make sure the address is accurate and can be delivered to the intended recipient. So this helps reduce bounce rates, it improves deliverability, and it protects you against spam. So overall, using an email verifier is a great way to ensure that your messages reach their intended recipients and you don't get blocked by spam filters. Now, you'll see some other videos out here on YouTube that they kind of promote you can go out, maybe scrape the web or buy a third-party list and then get a list of emails and upload it to one of these services and see how many of those emails are clean or valid emails. Yes, that works in essence, right? It checks to see if the email addresses in the list are valid. But I just want to say that's a very, very bad practice. Because even if it's a valid email, if you don't have permission to email them, I mean, obviously you shouldn't email them. If your emails are marked as spam, it can have significant impact on your ability to communicate with others. So your emails may be blocked or filtered into the recipient's spam folder, preventing them from being seen. So additionally, if too many of your emails are marked as spam, it can lead to your email address being blacklisted and blocked by other email providers. And I have another video out here on this Martech Hero YouTube channel about how to monitor IP blacklist, which talks more about this. But let's just get right into this, and I'll show you a demo of both of these tools here. Okay, first I'm over here in Reoon, and this is the dashboard. I had a deal that I got in AppSumo, which I'll talk about more later, but I basically get 500 credits per day. So this just tells me how many credits a day I get. A credit is basically just if you check one email, it's one credit. And they have a lot of different plans. You can increase this greatly. And it shows you how many, the verification activity over the last week or so. And then the lifetime usage stats is over here. So to check an email address on Reoon, you can just go up to enter an email address and paste it in. And this is just a testing Gmail account I have. So I'm gonna hit verify, it's checking, and it says this is safe. Reoon is nice because it gives you this pop-up screen and it gives you a lot of indications on what different tests this ran on this particular email address. Basically, we care about the status. So this is safe to send. It's valid. You know, you can go on and read all this, but this is a good, valid email address. Likewise, if we check the same email address over on Neverbounce, to do that, we have to go up here on the top and it's verify. And then over here on the right, it has recent ones we checked. Those are all test emails I was playing around with. So I'm going to type in this one. I'm going to hit validate. And it says it's valid. This one doesn't quite give you as much information. Neverbounce doesn't give you as much information on this screen as Reoon does with all the nice pop-up. It gives you all this other information here. To get it, we can hit export CSV and it gives you us a little bit more information, but still not as much as Reoon. So let's check another email address to see what other kind of things it pops up here. So I'm going to paste in just a bogus email address here. And you can see it says status is invalid. Is it safe to send? No, it's false. Will it be delivered? No, it's false. So you can see this is a bad email address. Likewise, over here on Neverbounce, same thing, invalid. So now I'm going to enter an email address that I know that the email box is just full. It's a valid email, but it's full. So it's verifying, and you can see this comes up with the message inbox full. So if you sent an email to this email, it would bounce back to you just to say that it's a valid email basically, but their inbox is full, so it can't accept new messages. So it says status inbox full, safe to send false. That's just because it's going to bounce back to you because it is full, but it's still a valid email address. If we check that same one over here on Neverbounce, though, their systems don't seem quite as good at categorizing that. It just marks it as invalid, even though truly it's just a full email box. So I'd say Reoon handles those a little better than Neverbounce. So another thing we could check is things called disposable emails. So there's a lot of sites, if you just Google disposable emails, there's a lot of sites that will give you a temporary email address, disposable. So sometimes people sign up for free, gated content with these fake disposable email addresses, and then they just later throw them away. But if you want to see how those verify, let's try this one, which is it's disposable. And as you can see, it says disposable. The status is disposable. So now we know that this is a disposable one. And likewise, if we go over to Neverbounce and check that one, disposable. So that comes up the same on both as well. Now there's some emails, and I'm going to give you an example here. There's this primary at Amazon.com. Let's just verify this. You can find this on their site. This is called a catch-all. This means that the email server accepts emails at any address, even if the individual address does not exist. And it most likely redirects them to a specific address that an admin can read. So if you send emails to these addresses, your email will not bounce, even if the individual email address does not exist. This one is valid. It's on the Amazon site, but it's just labeling it as a catch-all. And likewise, over on Neverbounce, we tried the same one. It's going to say the same thing. Accept all is the same as catch-all from Reoon. So then let's take a look at domains that aren't like Gmail or Yahoo. This is my Martech Hero email address, and I use this one, so I know it's valid. I know it works. So let's verify it with Reoon. And sure enough, it says it's safe and everything passes with flying colors. On Neverbounce, however, if I type in the same one, it's unknown. So Neverbounce can't verify whether this is accurate or not. But like I said, Reoon was able to verify it. So score 1 for Reoon on this one. Now we're going to paste in this one email address that's just used for testing. And you'll see that it says role account. So it says office, and then there's a company name. So, but the status says role account. So a role is an address. The role addresses are also valid and safe. The only difference is it is a company role related email address, like not a personal email address. So like a lot of people might share the same email account. For example, support@company.com. It might belong to the support team and not an individual. So Reoon it's valid, but it just kind of wants to point out that this actually isn't tied to one individual, but it's more like a shared account. And we try that same one over on Neverbounce. It just says valid. So Neverbounce doesn't have this role thing indicated for this particular email. So Reoon is actually a little bit better on notifying us on that. Then I'm going to just show you another one. This says invalid on Reoon. It's invalid, it's false. It's deliverable, false. Let's try the same one over on Neverbounce. And Neverbounce says it's valid. So this particular email is actually invalid. I tested it. It's not a valid email address. Reoon correctly identified it as invalid, but Neverbounce marked it as valid when it actually is not. And just to point out, sometimes you can have an email address that just looks like, human eye looks at this and says, oh, geez, there's no way that's valid. All this gibberish. But if you verify it, I mean, this is safe according to Reoon. So somebody at one point set up this Gmail account, and likewise on Neverbounce, it says valid. So that's just to point out that even though it says it's valid, I mean, I really doubt someone's using this, but maybe. So just to point out, it doesn't mean that people are going to open your emails. It just checks to see if it's a legit email address. So besides just checking one-off emails in each of these, each of them also allow you to upload a list of emails. So I have this Excel spreadsheet here that just has some sample emails on it. So we're going to upload that and just check to see if they're valid. To do that in Reoon, I'm going to simply select this email verification over on the left nav. And then I could just copy them here if I wanted to and hit start verification. Just copy them from Excel right in here. So over here for upload file, I'm going to hit this browse button. And then just select, in this case, it's a CSV file. And then I'm going to hit the start verification button. And it says emails submitted. You have successfully submitted the emails. Now we basically just wait and until it's done processing those emails, which it shouldn't take long because that particular list didn't have that many emails on there. Okay, then when it's done, we can go over the tasks and results tab over here. And this is the one I just did. So I'm going to hit details. And it gives us this overview. It had 16 emails and it tells us how many fell into each category. And I could also download the CSV of this. So why don't we just go ahead and do that, and we'll open that up. And when it opens up, it gives us this nice spreadsheet, and it gives us a lot of columns. One, of course, is the status right here. It tells us if they're safe or invalid. The different statuses that we already talked about. It also gives us a lot of other information, kind of like the same information that's on that pop-up screen. So this is very helpful and nice to have. So Reoon does a great job at this. Now let's jump over to Neverbounce and see how they handle it. Okay, now we're back in Neverbounce, and I'm on this clean tab up here, or this clean menu item. So I'm just going to hit this add a list and click here to upload that same list. There it is. So it's uploading. Great. And then I could click this analyze my list. This is free. And it says estimated bounce rate of that particular list is 13%. Doesn't give us a whole lot of information with this one, just the percentage. So we're going to go ahead and do this clean my list option. So we're going to select this. And then I could pay using credits, or I could pay using a credit card. I have credits on this account, so we're just going to use just 16 credits, 1 credit per email. So it's analyzing it a little bit more now. Okay, so it's done. So over here, it gives us a little bit of the validation results. There's 10 valid emails in that group, and there's 7 invalid. So I'm going to hit download. And we could download just the deliverable emails or only the undeliverable, or we'll just do all results. So we'll just do all results. And then down here, I'm going to just click the download button. And we're going to open up that file. And here's the results of that file that we just downloaded. So this one just simply says invalid or valid. So it doesn't give you near the detail that Reoon gives you. So in this category, Reoon handles these uploads much better and much more user-friendly, in my opinion. Okay, so that's how we went through the examples of adding individual emails or also uploading the emails. The other way you could do it, which is a great use case, is the API settings. So with the API, let's say you have a form on your website and it says, enter your first name, last name, and email address. and it gives people access to some gated content, or they sign up for a newsletter or what have you. But you might notice from your experience, like a lot of people just enter some bogus email address in there just to get past that screen to see if they can get the gated content. So, what you could do to filter those out is you could use an API to automatically, at the time that they enter the form data, it can be passed over to, in this case, Reoon, just to check it to see if it's valid, and then it can return something to you if it's invalid. So to do that, we're going to hit API settings. So I have a couple of these I already enabled that I was just playing around with and hooking it up to different APIs. So I'm going to just create a new API key by clicking this button. And it says, what do you want this API key to be called? So I'm just going to say, well, I'll say Reoon demo. And I'm going to say create API key. And then right there, it says, here's your API key. So I'm going to copy this and save it off someplace else. And of course, I'll delete this API key after this recording. Now we have the API key. So, okay, now what do we do with this API key? Okay, to show you how the API would work, I just bounced over to Zapier. Now I'm just using Zapier as a demo. You could use other tools too, like Make or your own API or what have you. So in Zapier, to save time, I already created this first step. In this case, there's a form on a website, and if somebody enters the form, it passes that information over to an email tool called Sendy. So Sendy is just capturing those new emails. So this particular trigger, let's take a look. It's capturing new subscribers. And if I just hit this test, I just entered my own martechhero.com email address just to pass it, for example. So the form captured my email address and it passed it over to Sendy, and that's where we are now. So I'm going to hit continue. So for the next step, we want to send this email address over to the API that Reoon has. Reoon doesn't have a native integration, so we're going to select this thing called Webhooks by Zapier. And this says premium. All that means is you can't have the free Zapier plan to use this particular one. And the event we're going to do is a get. It's going to be a get. We're going to get information from Reoon. So I'm going to hop back over to the API settings in Reoon just to see what we're going to be doing here. So as I stated up here, we got the API key, which is important, which we'll use shortly. And then down here, here's the simple get requests. So all this get request is doing, it's no different than when we were on this page and we typed in an email address and we hit verify. That's a get request. So now we're just going to systematically send that information over to Reoon. So there's two get requests. There's this one, which is called the quick mode, which gives you some information. And then there's another one called power mode, which gives you that information plus more. I tested this, and the power mode, if it's slower, it's not noticeable to me. It's pretty darn fast. So we're going to use this get request. So I'm just going to highlight all this, and I'm going to say copy. Now back over on Zapier, I selected the get request, and then I'm going to hit continue. Now it says, what's the URL? Well, it's what we just copied. Few things here, though. First of all, this email equals email. This is a variable. We want to pass that from up here in Sendy. So for now, I'm just going to delete that because we're going to add that a different way. And then it says the key. This is the API key. And if you recall, I copied that from the prior screen. So I'm actually just going to, and there's different ways you could do this. I'm just going to hard code that in. So it's going to look like this. And like I said, I'm going to deactivate this API key after this video, so it won't work. But I'm just using it for demo purposes. So now it's this URL, question mark key equals our API key. and then ampersand mode equals power, because we wanted the power mode. If we wanted a quick one, this would just say quick. Then down here, it says query string parameters. Now remember, the query string is email, and we want it to pass the email. So the name of the query string is email. So right here, I'm going to type in email. And then I'm going to select in this cell. It says, what information do you want to pull in? So I'm going to pull this thing called email, obviously, and that's being passed from Sendy. So now every time a new subscriber signs in, it's going to send that email address to this query string, and it's going to validate it through Reoon. We don't need any of this other stuff because the authorization, or I should say the authentication, is already handled with the ABI key. So we're going to hit continue. And we can test it. And it just sent over the test with that sample data of mark@martechhero.com. And as you can see, it says the domain email, inbox is full, no. And right down here, let me get rid of this. It says status is safe. So this is a safe email. So what you could do a number of different things with this information, right? You could go in and hit a plus. Let's have another thing, another action. And this time we could say something like filter by Zapier. So let's say if it's safe, that's great. We don't have to do anything. It's a good email address. But let's say it's not safe. So what we can do is it says only continue if, and it says choose field. I'm going to select on this get and webhooks, and it's going to pull all those fields that are returned by the API. And in our example, there is something called status, safe. And as you recall, we had a safe status. So you could say text does not exactly match. I can just type in the word safe. And hit continue. So in this case, it tested it. It says your Zap would not have continued. And why is that? Well, we gave it a safe email address up here. And it checked Reoon and it was safe. And then since it was safe, it's like, well, it doesn't continue. But if it wasn't safe, then we add another step. In this, you could do, I mean, there's a number of different things you could do. You could get fancy and you could have it go back into Sendy and just automatically delete that email address. So, if it's not valid, it just comes back and it erases it. You could send yourself an email that says someone just signed up with a bogus email address. So you could do a number of different things here, but that's basically how it would work. So it's really slick, easy to use. And I actually use it on a form sign up. So when someone signs up for a form, I'll get alerted if it's a bogus email and then it'll just be deleted. So that works great. And like I said, this example, we just use this example in Zapier, but you could do the same type of thing using the exact same get call in whatever automation tool you use, whether it's Make, if it's your own or whatever. It's the same get request no matter what. So I just use Zapier because it tends to be kind of easy and it's easy to explain. Now I'm back over at Neverbounce, and I won't go through that whole example again because I think you guys probably get the point of it. But I just want to point out in Neverbounce, it has the same kind of functionality. In this case, we go to Apps, and they have different choices here. If we wanted to, we could just use their custom integration with Zapier by selecting this. If you wanted to do it the exact same way that we just did the Reoon email verification, we could just select webhook, and then up here, so we call it demo webhook, And then down here, we could have low balance alerts if we're starting to use too many of our credits. Let's just continue, and we'll just say create app. And then it gives us this dashboard. Nothing's been processed through it yet, of course. But up here, if I select this down arrow, it gives us a webhook. This is the exact same kind of thing that we just passed. As you can see, it has this key, this private key. And then at the end of this, it also has the email equals. And you replace that the exact same way that we just did in like Zapier, for example, and the Reoon example. Okay, lastly, I just want to talk about the price of each of these services because that's obviously a key thing to know about. So Neverbounce charges basically on how many emails you send through their validation tool. So in my example, let's say I have 500 emails that I want to check through form submissions. I have 500 emails a day I want to check for a month. So that comes out to about 15,000 emails I'm checking a month. So if I just type in 15,000, Neverbounce will charge me $75 a month for their service. And now Reoon, we're going to bounce over to their pricing model. If I wanted to compare apples to apples, I would have to do the monthly plan. And 500 credits a day, which comes out to about 15,000 a month if it's 30 days, would be $9 a month. So Reoon is drastically cheaper. You can also buy these lifetime credits. So you get like 10,000 credits. And then once your credits are expired, you'd have to buy more credits. They also have a free plan that you can just test it out with. You can verify up to 600 emails per month that way, which is quite a bit actually. But I just want to point out that Reoon actually has an AppSumo deal going on right now. And I'm not sure how much longer this is going to go on. I'll put a link to this in the comments below. But basically, they have a deal. I'm going to scroll down here. So they have different plans. But plan one, for $79, a one-time purchase of $79, they'll give you 500 credits a day for life, forever, just for the $79. And then on top of that, they'll throw in an extra 100,000 extra lifetime credits. So you get 500 credits a day plus the 100,000. If you want more credits a day, they have plan 2, plan 3, and some other plans. So you can go to 1,200 credits per day for plan 2, 2,100 credits per day. And let's just see what the max is here. The plan 5, which would be a one-time cost of $395, but it would give you 4,500 credits per day plus 700,000 lifetime credits. So, and like I said, a credit is just an email. So each day you could check 4,500 different emails for this plan. And back to plan 1. And this one, you could check up to 500 emails a day. So you've checked 500 emails one day. The next day, you could check another 500 emails. So this plan is unbelievably good. And which one is better? I mean, honestly, I actually like Reoon much, much better than Neverbounce. And jumping back to their dashboards, I just find Reoon much easier to use. I actually like their dashboard a whole lot better than Neverbounce's. I like how when you type in an address up here, it gives you the pop-up right away instead of just a simple valid, invalid indicator. I like to know exactly why it's invalid. It's just so much easier to use, in my opinion. So I personally like Reoon better. I've been testing it for weeks on forms with that API integration I showed you, and it just works great. And I've been validating email addresses with Reoon and comparing it to Neverbounce, and I just think it just does a great job. And honestly, most emails, if it's invalid in one, it's invalid in the other. They pretty much do the exact same thing. I found that Reoon might be slightly more accurate than Neverbounce, but I mean, they both do a great job. But for the price point and what you get, I would definitely go with Reoon. And one more thing to add, I should just jump back to Zapier here real fast. And if you just really wanted to cover all your bases, and like I said, this might be overkill, but you could actually just test both of them. And in your Zap, you could actually have it go to Reoon. And then if it fails, or if it passes, either way, you could then have it flow into Neverbounce, and then you could have a decision path on which one said is invalid and which one says is valid, just to kind of compare it in real time. But it's definitely something you could do in Zapier if you had both accounts, like just to test it out for a while. But anyway, my verdict is Reoon. But let me know if you have any questions or comments. And if there's anything I can help you out with, if you have any questions on the Zaps or anything, just let me know and I'll be happy to chime in and help you guys out. And thanks a lot for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video.